This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design development from a group of people with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 520, Dripyard. On today's show, we're talking about Dripyard, what they do, and why we need them now with our guests, Mike Herchel and Andy Giles. We'll also cover Content First as our module of the week. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Our guests today are Mike Herchel and Andy Giles. Andy Giles is a veteran web developer and Drupal specialist. In 2012, he founded Blue Oak Interactive, a development and consulting agency focused on complex Drupal site builds, particularly in e-commerce and data pipelines. In 2025, that's this year, he partnered with Mike Herchel to launch Dripyard, a premium Drupal theme designed to reduce the cost of ownership and enhance the developer experience for modern Drupal projects. Mike Herchel is the founder and dev at Dripyard, as well as a maintainer of Drupal's core CSS subsystem and default theme. He is a big believer in free open source software and the open web. Mike and Andy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us on.
I'm John Picozzi, Solutions Architect at EPAM, and today my co-hosts are joining us for his third week, I believe, James Sansbury, CEO at Tugboat. How's it going, James?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
And filling in for Nick this week, you may know him from the module of the week. It's Martin Anderson-Klutz, Principal Solutions Engineer at Acquia.
Great to be here.
Wearing his Drupal GovCon shirt, I see.
That is correct.
I'm particular to that color green. It is lovely. All right, Martin, as I teased in the intro here, let's do what we do usually at this part of the show and talk about our module of the week. What do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. Have you ever wanted to give your content teams a simple way to review the content of a node in raw Markdown or unstyled HTML format so that they can focus on the writing and its structure? There's a module for that. It's called Content First, and it was created in March 2025 by Jorge Tutor of Metadrop. It has a 1.0.2 version available, which supports Drupal 10.3 and 11. And it is actively maintained, has security coverage, and for documentation has a pretty lengthy README. It actually has no open issues, which is pretty good considering it is officially in use by 38 sites according to Drupal.org. Now, with the module installed, site admins or anyone with the necessary permissions will see a new Content First tab on nodes. When you click on that tab, you'll see an unstyled version of the content in either Markdown or unstyled HTML, with only the headings labeled with the heading level and any embedded media shown. In a sidebar on the right, it will also display an outline view of the heading structure, which makes it easy to identify if any heading levels have been skipped. With a single click, you can also copy the unstyled content or download it. This Content First display of the node can also optionally include one or more meta tags, such as title, description, abstract, and keywords. Within the site's content overview display, this module also adds an option to bulk export many or all of your nodes into a zipped archive for review using local tools as well. So let's talk about Content First.
Well, this is cool. I mean, I think, I'm not much of a content specialist, but if I were, this seems like one of those things that I'd want added just to make my life a little bit easier, especially on those longer pages that have a lot of headings and a lot of images. This kind of simplifies it quite a bit, which is nice.
I've definitely heard of some companies that have sort of, a large team because they're creating a lot of content. And I've heard of them using sort of specialized tools, even sort of upstream from a Drupal site to be able to do some of these things where it's more focused on the writing itself. So I think being able to bring that into a tool like Drupal potentially, is going to simplify their architecture.
Yeah, I wonder, we see usage statistics, 38 sites using it. I wonder what the gist of those sites are. I would imagine they're primarily like editorial type sites, but I mean, I guess this could be used in a variety of different ways. E-commerce kind of comes to mind too. Those typically have some, or can have some longer pages.
For sure.
Interesting. Well, Martin, I appreciate you bringing us this module of the week, and you, as we said, are sticking around for the whole show. But if somebody wanted to suggest a module, how could they go about doing that?
We are always happy to talk about interesting candidates for the module of the week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as ManClue on all of the Drupal and social channels. Now, I did also want to mention a public service announcement for our listeners about a supply chain attack impacting a variety of NPM tools, including the debug, Chalk, and other libraries. Apparently, a maintainer was fooled by a convincing password reset phishing email, and then the attacker published malicious new versions of all the projects for which they now had access. The malicious code will intercept crypto transactions and Web3 API calls in browser environments, changing the recipient. A simple grep command can help you quickly identify whether or not your site has been compromised. So for all of our listeners, please take a minute to make sure you haven't been impacted. We'll include the command and a link to the thread about the issue in the show notes.
Well, thank you for alerting us to that potential issue. Appreciate that. And yeah, like we said, look in the show notes for more information. All right, Bad Camp is coming. Let's turn it over to Bad Camp President John Keeley to tell us more.
Are you ready to innovate and connect with the best of the Drupal community? Then mark your calendars for Bad Camp 2025. Join us on Thursday, September 25th and Friday, September 26th, 2025 at Oak Stop in downtown Oakland for 2 days of learning and networking. This year, Bad Camp is focused on how to leverage AI using Drupal. Discover exciting talks like Accelerating Innovation, the Drupal AI Initiative by Kristen Pohl, Getting Hands-On with Drupal AI, Building Smart Sites with Zero Code from J. Matthews Sanders, and explore 3 ways to use AI in Drupal, chatbot, smart search, and code generation with Sal Lakami. Bad Camp is a free community-run event focused on learning and inclusivity, bringing together hundreds of Drupal users, developers, marketers, and content specialists. Our camp includes technical trainings, industry-focused summits like Higher Education Summit, conference sessions, and an exhibit hall, and crucial community contribution opportunities. Don't miss this event. For more information, visit badcamp.org. Interested in supporting this amazing community event? We need your help. Contacts for sponsorship opportunities at sponsorship@badcamp.org. That's badcamp.org, your destination for Drupal and innovation. Register and we'll see you in September. Take care.
Awesome. Bad Camp sounds like a really good time. And when you're listening to this show, if you listen to it right when it comes out, Bad Camp's the following week. So if you can make it to California or in the area, you should definitely check that out.
I'll be there. This is James.
James will be there. You
Yeah.
can look up James
Mhm.
and
Yep.
you know, have fun.
You'd be offering free beers for tugboat customers. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
He just
Absolutely, I
plus
really
one.
will.
He just plus one for tugboat customers there. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yep.
And you know, if you sign up on the spot, I'm sure James will buy you a beer there too. So there you go.
Yes.
In that case, he gets you a shot.
Your plus one of choice there, I guess.
Yeah, and also you don't have to drink to use tugboat. So
There you go. Actually, it's probably suggested.
But to use Drupal, you do. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
All
Sorry.
right, let's jump into the primary topic of today's show, which is Dripyard, which is not probably abundantly clear to a lot of other people other than maybe the 5 of us, because it's brand new. So look, it's
Yeah.
like breaking news. We're breaking news right now, which is super exciting. So Mike Herchel, what is Dripyard?
Yeah. So basically, it is a company, and we are going to produce and sell very quality premium Drupal themes. So right now, like we all know, like we can download Drupal, we can build a very complex content architecture with complex workflows, and you can do this all while clicking around your browser. And this is something that is Drupal's power. This is what makes Drupal right here. But as soon as you want to make it look beautiful, it costs a lot of money. And so that's kind of where we come in. You can maybe pay a front-end developer, north of $20,000 to do a beautiful, accessible website that supports all the interesting Drupal isms, or you can pay us a fraction of that amount, and kind of be up and running a lot quicker. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it right there.
I have so many questions about this concept, and I'm sure we will cover most, if not all of them, throughout our conversation today. But follow up to my original question, Dripyard, is that some newfangled slang? Is that coming back to the Drupal drop analogy there? Where did the name come from?
Yeah, kind of yes to both, So obviously, Drupal is kind of a play on the word drop. So is drip, and so drip is also like what kids these days use to describe like the way they look, So I can I can say to John here, hey, that's a nice drip you got going right there, and that includes
Drupal shirt.
yeah, and your hat and your glasses and all that stuff. So that's kind of the way you look, So that's what the drip refers to. And then, we're not just drip, we're Dripyard, as in the shipyard. We build the stuff,
You're building drip for the drop. I got you.
Hey, yeah. That's it. And
you can take that. That's free. You can take that.
Building drip for the drop. I'm gonna write that down.
If it ends up on a DrupalCon T-shirt, I expect at least a free one.
Yeah. We'll have James give you some beer. Yeah. So cool.
So, Mike, what made you decide that this was the right time to launch Dripyard?
Oh man, I read this whole article about that, so I'm super good at this. Right. So in previous years, like there's Drupal theme companies out there right now, and there were more Drupal theme companies back when Drupal was more popular. But the challenge with Drupal theming traditionally has been that the theme had no idea what the markup was going to look like, and if you don't know what the markup is, you don't know what CSS selectors are, you can't really style anything, and that changed in Drupal 10.1 with single directory components, where now a theme can ship a whole badass library of components that has markups. And then all you got to do is you just got to kind of route your data to the appropriate part of the component, and it'll look good and place that component on the page. And so the technology is finally caught up with this point where we need to do that. But at the same time, Drupal's starting to change a little bit too. Like Drupal CMS's product strategy has explicitly indicated that they're going after the mid-market. Like Drupal seeded the mid-market many years ago, when we were kind of going from 7 to 8 and et cetera, and
intentionally.
Yeah. And we said we want to do enterprise because that's where the big bucks are, But now we realize, well, it's important to focus on the mid-market too, because that's where developers come from. That's how people hear about Drupal, but part of being competitive in that mid-market is lowering the cost of development for Drupal. And as I said earlier, like you can pay like front-end development, like a quality front-end developer costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. But if you can get that head start that takes you like right about to the finish line, that will drastically lower your cost. And so that's kind of what we want, and we're looking, we're not into this only for the money, although like being sustainable is obviously important. Like we want Drupal to grow. Like we want Drupal we want people that were looking at other solutions like WordPress and being like, why would I do WordPress when I can do Drupal? Drupal has these themes too. So that's kind of what we're hoping, and it's going to take a lot. It's not going to be like this out of the gate. But yeah.
So one of the things that Dries talked about at DrupalCon Atlanta this year was this new idea of site templates. How does that fit into, sort of the roadmap that you guys have planned?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for those the listeners who aren't familiar with what it is, a site template's basically going to be like you install it and it pre-configures your site for whatever use case you want. Like let's say I'm a church and I want, I want a content type for sermons, maybe a podcast, an event calendar. I want a theme and all this other crap. Instead of building this out, well, you can get a site template either free or paid and be off to the races, and it even comes with default content, right? So that's what site templates give you, and I think that's going to go a long way to make Drupal competitive. So how do we fit into that? Well, like I do believe that probably the most significant part of a site template is literally the theme. People judge a book by its cover. People judge a website by how it looks, how fast it loads. So I feel that we have a head start here. So we're we're going to be doing site templates. And we're going to make some awesome site templates, and we have ideas. Right now, the requirements for site templates are kind of being discussed. There's some issues in the Drupal CMS issue queue that I was looking through earlier, and trying to put our heads around that and comment as we see fit.
I'm checking out your website right now, dripyard.com. It's looks really nice.
Does it have a nice drip, you would say?
So much drip.
I don't know that I can say that without my kids like cringing or eye rolling or something. Even if
So
as
as
you're
a
never gonna listen to
father-
this, but still, yeah.
As a father, it is your responsibility to make your kids roll their eyes.
Yeah.
So that's where I don't know if you guys just noticed that, but that's probably where Mike and Andy differ a little bit. The way that Mike said it was like cringe. The way that Andy said it was like cool and hip.
Okay. Yeah. Andy, can you give us your best skibbity?
Skibbity. That sounds kind of sus, man. I don't know.
I can't wait to play this section of the show to my kids.
Yeah.
And have them recoil and
Yeah.
Oh,
boy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's cool.
I
I was
did
going to say
notice
we just launched this yesterday, Mike, dripyard.com.
Well, we launched it over the weekend, but we didn't tell anyone about it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Just so we could like kind of screw around. Like Andy and I have been going over this themes page for a while because we're not super happy with the sliders and stuff. We want to, and there's a couple changes we're going to do, but overall we needed to get it out, and we're happy with it. But
yeah, and it's cool. I mean, we built this, obviously, we're dog fooding here and building it with our own tooling, right? So we have like a suite of single directory components that we're basing everything on. And so as you'll see when we roll out our themes, eventually you'll be able to tell like how much different you can make a site across, different verticals or, design concepts just with what we provide you out of the box.
So just to be clear, is the big reveal on the 30th the website itself, or is it an actual Dripyard theme?
Yeah, so we're actually launching sale on the 30th. So we wanted to do a little soft launch. Some people obviously are close friends, and others in the Drupal community knew we've been working on this. But we've been kind of in the dark for about 10 months, just going to town building it. And so we've got our website, our branding, all that stuff ready, some marketing stuff. So we're just, opening the door to that. And then, on the 30th, if all goes as planned, we're opening the payment gateway. So we'll be ready to sell themes. You'll be able to purchase a theme, download it, install it, and hopefully prevent a bunch of front-end development that you would normally have to do by using our themes as a kickstart.
Yeah, save money.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you mentioned the name. The name of the theme is what?
We have two themes.
Yep.
The first one is named Neon Bite. And
Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, right. Out of the box, it's kind of businessy. Like the initial mock-ups that we got in Figma kind of looked almost like Apple-y, and but the cool thing about these themes is like they're so flexible. Andy has been needing to do a website for a studio for a while, and so we played around with Neon by we changed the color schemes. We started uploading different like photos, different assets, and it fits that use case like so well. And it's pretty cool. The second theme that we have is called Great Lakes, and the initial look and feel is kind of like an educational institution. And it's pretty cool. It has a couple different components than NeonByte has, because we don't want a lot of like they share a base library of components, but it's not 100% shared. And yeah, Great Lakes has like this beautiful large fixed header that's optional, where like as you kind of scroll down, the header kind of disappears and then the navigation fixes in place, and it has this big bold navigation and all that type of stuff.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Mike. Can you
Uh-oh.
spell the name of your first theme?
No.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, it's NeonByte, so NEONBYTE.
Okay.
It's
Interesting.
8 letters.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Neon
Got
Byte.
You've only typed it a couple times, right?
Oh yeah. Like, well, I usually copy and paste it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you go to dripyard.com, I just clicked on themes, and then I've got this big countdown going. So like at the time of recording here, it says 20 days, 18 hours, 47 minutes. Right now it's 49 seconds.
Oh shit.
So
man. I'm sweating.
yeah, I mean, the countdown is real. I was wondering, like, if I want to buy a theme, should I start like lining up outside of your house, Mike? And I'm also curious, like, how much money I should have in my pocket roughly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, you should start lining up, and
okay,
and
yeah,
you can
like bring tents and stuff, and just yeah.
send some beer.
Okay.
The kind of
Like a
tailgate.
Best Buy before an iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here
it's
we
like
go.
Switch 2's coming out, and I've got to get in line,
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like a Taylor Swift concert, kind of.
okay, yeah.
So you can line up metaphorically by there's a little call to action when you go to our website and to sign up for a webinar. And like as we launch at 11 a.m. on September 30th, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to do a webinar, and we're going to kind of demo our themes. We're going to take some questions. We're going to show the theme in some suboptimal situations that other themes cannot handle, and I'm talk about the accessibility of it. Does it handle things like force colors mode? How does it handle, I don't know, how does it look as an admin theme, even though you would never use it as one, and things like that. On our webinar, we're gonna give away some coupon codes. So you can get a little bit
Nice.
of a discount,
Yeah, that's great.
Andy's in the process this week of building out all the e-commerce integration with that, is how much it's going to cost. That's a good question, because we've been debating this like internally and then with some friends, like right now we're looking, between like $400 and $500 per theme. And that covers, one site, it does not cover like, a suite of sites or anything like that. And that's going to be introductory pricing, so it's likely going to go up from there.
Okay.
And that sounds like a lot higher than, say, like WordPress themes. A lot of WordPress themes go for significantly less, but WordPress can do that because they have like 30% of the web, so they rely on volume. Drupal has significant less volume than something like WordPress does.
Well, something I heard you mention right at the beginning too is like a real strong emphasis on accessibility. And I'm not sure all of the WordPress themes that you can buy for $20 have that same emphasis. So I'm curious, like, about that. You have like, is that true? Is a lot of the effort here in making this? It looked like it said WCAG 2.2 on the site.
Yeah, yeah. 2.2 AA is what we're aiming for, and as far as I know, what we meet. There's always bugs, but I have a significant amount of experience doing accessibility work, including like bringing Olivero into Drupal core and a lot of work on Claro and stuff like that. And so a significant amount of work goes into accessibility, and it's not just about making sure there's focus states. It's about making sure when stuff isn't that visible, it's not reachable. When stuff is visible, it's reachable. Managing those focus states, making sure there's proper labels on things, making sure it's robust. So if people are using something like prefers reduced motion or forced colors, we respect that. We even have like an example of this is like with Neon Byte out of the box, the header has kind of like that frosted glass kind of look, which is configurable if you don't like that. But like we have a media query in there. There's a media query for prefers less transparency. We respect that. So there's all these little things that most people will never notice, but the people who do notice are the people that need to use your website, and that's what makes it accessible. And we're not just looking for a checkbox. We want to make this thing like a joy to use. Because accessibility is usability, really.
So one thing that comes to mind here as you're spinning up a theme creation company, I have the question here: what's involved with making a new theme? Which is like a really basic question, right? But the question, I guess, is more about the thinking and the architecture of the theme that you have to put in place in order to sell it to multiple people for whatever their use case might be, right? And what I mean by that is like if I'm just building a theme, like theme development is complicated and would require my time, but I'm building my theme for my specific use case and I'm going to do things that are going to be very specific to the way I'm doing it. You guys are building themes for the general public, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what's involved in building a theme like that, and like how complex is it?
Oh, it's so much more complex than we initially done. And I even have like a little bit of experience with this. Like, when we were doing when we were creating Olivero, which is Drupal's default theme, and bringing that into core, like we obviously had no sense of a use case, but Olivero was even like in a certain sense like a little bit more simple than what Great Lakes and Neon Byte are, because you didn't have components back when we were doing that, and so we didn't have to support a bunch of stuff. So 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 there's a lot. Like when you think about a component, let's say you have like a carousel slider or something like that. Like number one, carousels sometimes can be a bad idea. How can we make these but people want them. How can we make this less of a bad idea? And like, so when I was creating carousel, and I need to write an article on this thing, but
Your article's title should be like, "Don't use carousels, people."
I know, like there's a website out there like, should I use a carousel? And it just says no, but
I hope it
like
rotates through several no's.
it does.
That would be incredible.
That would be awesome. But there are examples like out there on how to make accessible carousels, how to like use the appropriate ARIA attributes so people can identify, so like screen reader users can identify these carousels and operate them properly and understand what's happening, and so much work went into that, and and this is just one, right? But then a lot of times carousels are full screen, but we don't know if this is going to be full screen. Maybe it's just going to be on a sidebar. We don't know where this user is going to put it, right? So we have to have this carousel not use media queries. It needs to use container queries, where like how wide is its container, and can it fit there? So our carousel, like if it gets below like a certain amount, it'll switch to just like one slide, and to make everything responsive, and that's just one. So outside of that, like Drupal has a lot of little weird things, to it. Like there's things like messages, like a couple, years ago, like a lot of people's messages in their themes broke because kind of Drupal started injecting them more through, I think, like Big Pipe and JavaScript and stuff like that. We need to handle like multiple types of messages. There's things like the node preview toolbar, responsive tables that Views gives you out of the box. We need to support things like that. Lots of different toolbars and things, and just a lot of like miscellaneous things that we need to do. We need to do it well, and it all needs to be very accessible, and it needs to look good, and out on the flip side of that, like we built this design system, and this is not, I have so many things I need to write articles about. There's not enough days in the week to do all this stuff, but we built this design system where you configure your colors through the theme settings page, and then you have another layer that takes the colors and makes variations of the colors, and it uses CSS relative color syntax to do it. And then from there, we have a set of 5 different kind of themes that you can mix and match together on your page, and each of these themes, which is a CSS class, has multiple different design tokens in there, like CSS variables. So we have like three variables for text colors, 3 variables for surface colors, multiple border colors, some danger colors and error colors, and multiple things like that. And the way that we're structuring it is that the surface colors and the text colors, no matter what you choose, always have that 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio. The border colors always have 3.1 contrast ratio, everything like that. So what that means is when you have a component, like let's go back to this carousel component, which is probably one of the more complex components that we wrote. You apply a theme to this component, like out of the box, it's probably going to be a white theme, and you'll have dark text. But if you give it a CSS class, call it theme dark or something like that, everything flips, and it does it and maintains contrast ratio in a way that is very you're confident it's going to work, because the way we wrote these components, they use these design tokens, and we are confident that all these design tokens have proper contrast ratios with it. So that by itself, getting that right, was an enormous amount of effort. And I mean, I know I just explained it in like 5 minutes, but like getting to that point was very significant, and still being reiterated. Like for each of these, we have to set the color scheme CSS property. Like no one knows what a color scheme CSS property is. But what that does is that affects your colors of your scroll bars, or like the little number widget. You have like a input type number, and there's little arrows that go up and down. That can change depending on your scroll, and so we set all this, and it's the details that matter with what we're selling. Like there's so much amount of tender loving care just put into this stuff. And gosh, like I was kind of like I wrote my blog article announcing this, and I was like, we have probably over 1,000 hours easily into this, and that's like probably even lowballing it. And I'm just talking about my work. Andy put in a significant amount of work. He's going to talk later about like all the recipes and stuff that we have integrated into the theme, and how he made sense, and how he abstracted some of the PHP in the theme and stuff like that, which is so clever and great.
So Mike, let me you said something that piqued my interest, to steal a James Sansburyism. There. So you guys developed a design system. You built single directory components based on that design system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like the secret? Is that like the secret sauce of Dripyard? Are each theme that you guys create going to be I don't want to say a version, but like, are they going to be built on that base of the design system and the components to allow you guys to iterate faster?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, the variables that go into the system are easily changeable, you know, so we can change it, we can change the ratios between them, and you know, like each of the components has a number of individual tokens, component specific tokens that we can modify, and it can make these components look radically different per theme, but in general the markup is going to be the same. The accessibility is going to be maintainable.
Yep.
The design system is going to be maintainable. Uh, the backend theme code that sets it within the theme settings all does the same thing, and so like that is going to allow us to start releasing themes on kind of a regular cadence, you know.
Yeah, that makes complete sense as somebody who recently came off a project with a design system, component library, and like that sort of architecture. Like, definitely makes a lot of sense. And so, one more question, and then I'll let Martin jump in here. Um, so you talk about, you know, design system, component library, right? And then you talk about the themes being able to kind of switch colors based on the you know, CSS token values, right? Are those going to be available to the end user? Like, if you buy a theme, right, will you have a certain level of kind of color customization the end user can make to that theme to kind of make it their own, or change it down the road if they want to? Or is all that stuff kind of locked down as like, hey, this theme is like this color set?
No, yeah, that's a great question. So the end user has a certain amount of flexibility built into the UI within the theme settings page, you know, like there's colors and stuff like that. But our themes are designed to be overridden, modified. Like when you look at it, like we write our components with vanilla CSS. There's no like crazy Sass mix-ins that you need to dive into to understand, or anything like that. You know, like this is pretty straightforward stuff. So like the architecture is built that to enable updates, and if people want to override variables, like they're going to be sub-theme in our themes, and you can easily override these. You could easily extend the libraries and then override the CSS as necessary, and totally change design tokens that do not have a UI. And it's kind of a balance, you know, like we've talked to multiple people while we're doing marketing research to determine like, well, where's that level? How much stuff should we bring into the UI versus how much stuff should stay in code? And the thing is, not everything could go into the UI, because if we did, it would just be overwhelming. You know, it would be absolutely ridiculous. And so we bring the most important things into the UI, at least what we consider, and this might change going forward too, as we get additional feedback. And then everything else, most of the other stuff is exposed as CSS variables that you just override. And those CSS variables are generally attached at the component level. And if you really want to change stuff, you can override a component. SDC gives you that capability, or you can override CSS too.
Cool.
So I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
Seeing that these themes are really built on this sort of cohesive design system, if somebody, you know, bought one of the themes but wanted to customize it and also present that to, like, you know, let's say the customer that they're building the site for, and sort of show that before they actually start making some of these CSS changes, would they have access to like a Figma file or something that they could use to sort of like represent how that'll look before they start making those changes?
Not really. Like as it stands, like right now, like we have like we're gonna have demos, you know, so people can test drive our stuff, you know. So they can do that. Like as we got our Figma files from our awesome designer whose name was Alessia, like we got, you know, 3 pages, but those 3 pages are not like representative. We use those as like kind of like a guide to build out everything else, you know. So like, because like if you were to Figma up the entire Drupal and all these entire components and stuff, that would be an enormous amount of money we would pay this designer, which right now we're making the grand total of $0 per month. So So like that's something that we have to be aware of.
Right. No, that makes sense. So I think you've already touched on a little bit in terms of, some of the ways you've approached building the themes, like, based on that design system, using the single directory components, and even the focus on accessibility. But like, are there any other ways that you think the approach that Dripyard is going to take to sort of building and releasing themes is different from some of your competitors in kind of the Drupal theme space?
Yeah, so like the competitors in our Drupal theme space, like I mean, there's like Drupal themes IO and Drupal, and I'm not quite sure if they're the same ones. Like, uh, I haven't bought any themes from them recently, but I did back in the day. I remember it was actually related to Tugboat because we needed a theme to demo Tugboat back in the day, James. But like a lot of these themes don't make use of components. At least I haven't found any while looking at them that looking at the markup, you see that data component ID or anything like that. They're like the ones that I've seen, they advertise, and kind of a page builder module, which is their own thing. And like from my point of view, I wouldn't want to be kind of tied to someone else's page builder because I don't know how much that is supported, etc. A lot of the themes have traditionally, I'm not quite sure if they still do, like they ship a module, that throws down some content types and some markups so they can then style it. And obviously that kind of locks you into their content type. And if you do something different, you're kind of on your own, you have to extend it. And so that's, well, I'm really hesitant to, I don't want to talk bad things about these people because I'm sure they they're great people and they've been doing stuff and they're significantly less, like their themes cost like $40-50. So if you're looking for that, I highly recommend you talk to them but our stuff is a level above that. An example of this, that's what I want to say this, Andy. Like Andy's, like last night he was burning the midnight oil doing his e-commerce stuff for Dripyard.com. And he shot me some screenshots the middle of the night. I was sleeping. But like long story short, like it looked good because I built stuff out the right way. Like because commerce uses some tables and like to get table, Drupal does tables weird, by the way. Like we have all these like weird, sort things and table drags and all this type of stuff. Like Dripyard supports that, or Dripyard theme supports that, like if you toss a Dripyard theme and use them as an admin theme, which I do for like development stuff like that, you can go into the menu system, reorder stuff, and it looks good. You try to do that with anyone's themes, it's not going to look good, and it's accessible too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that differentiates us from the competitors, honestly, is definitely Mike's experience with all the Drupalisms in building Olivero, and my experience in backend development in Drupal. Like we're building these themes to be what you'd expect for Drupal. When you install them, we're not making assumptions that you're going to be using paragraphs or that you're going to be using Layout Builder. Like we're putting the pieces in place so that no matter what you're using to build your site, it's going to look good. It's going to come with all the core things that you'd expect out of the box. I think like one of the things I used to experience as a backend developer is the inability to really build a full Drupal site by myself, because I would find a sub theme or find a theme, sub theme it, and then get to a certain page and this element's like completely off the layout or whatever. Breadcrumbs are broken or just various things like that. And our goal with our themes is to make it so that when you install it over Drupal core, like all the things that you would expect are there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it feels like it makes a lot of sense to stick to Drupal core and to use the knowledge that you guys have to kind of like build themes in that way. It's kind of like almost like an extension of core as opposed to like a lot of themes that feel like, hey, we just kind of like did our own thing and added it on top of Drupal, right? So I can definitely see that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the work that went into, supporting Drupal, the way Drupal does tables and stuff like that. And I'm curious, the artist formerly known as Experience Builder, which is now Canvas. Will your themes support Canvas as well? I got to imagine that's a huge undertaking and also a moving target.
Yeah, it's definitely a moving target. But you made that joke, the artist formerly known as Canvas. Did you see that logo I put in that issue earlier?
No.
So there was an issue that Darren O opened to create like a logo for Canvas, and I totally
yeah.
submitted the print sign with the DrupalCon on top of it.
Nice. Yeah, that's incredible.
Anyway, to answer your question, yeah, heck yeah, we're going to support Canvas like we really got to. Canvas, formerly known as Experience Builder, is going to be the way that people build Drupal websites, and it is really what's going to allow Drupal to compete with like modern page builders like Webflow and Gutenberg and there's probably 20,000 of them by now, and it needs to be good. And so like our stuff needs to work with this, but it's complicated because we need to work with Experience Builder or Canvas, but we also need to work with regular templates, and that's not always easy. An example of this is when you're defining your schemas for your components, there's like a $ref, and with like a long string where you point to a JSON schema and the Experience Builder module, right? And that tells Experience Builder that, hey, this is an image field, and we're going to load our image widget. This is a text area, and so instead of a normal text, a small text field, we're gonna have a large text field and stuff like that. So it's easy. We put the $refs in there, but if the Experience Builder module does not exist, what happens? Andy, what happens?
It dies.
It blows up. So there's things like that we're kind of working around. Of course, we opened up issues with that, and there's some discussions and single directory components. Like right now, there's like an issue within single directory components, which obviously I try to stay on top of this stuff. Talking about like referencing other stuff similar to how XB is doing it, and I would just be happy if it doesn't blow up. And Andy and I are talking about potential workarounds on that and stuff like that. So it's a little complicated, but we are planning on supporting Experience Builder as it is when it is released. In the meantime, what we do is we, like, on occasion, I probably have last done this maybe like a month or so ago. We put our theme, load up the Experience Builder demo that Fina Proxima put together, and just kind of see what works, what doesn't work, etc. An example of this is our base theme issue. Like our shared component library would package up into a base theme called Dripyard base, and this allows it to be easily shared, updated across our multiple themes and stuff like that. So we threw this into Experience Builder, and we're like, Experience Builder is not loading components out of our base theme, and so we have to be. This was fixed, but it would not have been fixed if we did not find this issue. So it's very important for us to make sure Experience Builder works with us as much as we work with Experience Builder or as Drupal Canvas, and so there's a lot of give and take, a lot of stuff like that, and I have a feeling leading up to DrupalCon Vienna, where I will be talking about a lot of this stuff, and Drupal Canvas will be launching. We're going to be doing probably even some more significant amount of work to make sure it works beautifully and just as great as possible.
I feel like we're going to have to develop like a voiceover where I just go Drupal Canvas, and then anytime somebody says XB, we just drop that in there. And
you get like a little like electrical shock every time you say Experience Builder.
So, I mean, it sounds like, I almost just said Experience Builder again. It sounds like, supporting Drupal Canvas, that's a big part of what's going to make Drupal CMS, Drupal CMS.
Yeah.
And set it apart. So, but just broadly speaking, are Are your themes Drupal CMS ready as well beyond Drupal
Mm-hmm.
Canvas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like right now, if you install Drupal CMS 1.0,
Mhm.
and you plug our theme, if you had our theme and you plug it in, it looks good out of the box. You know, like we override a couple templates,
Mhm.
and we map some components. You know, we use these templates to map into our components,
Mm.
and it works pretty well. We even go as far as to support some of the special recipes in there. Like an example of that is like the search API. Like there's an advanced search recipe that comes with Drupal CMS 1.0, and it gives you autocomplete, right? So we make sure that this autocomplete works, you know, because the autocomplete number one needs to like be styled correctly, you know, and it needs to just kind of work as expected. So there's things like that we do. Like the coffee module. I don't know if y'all use the coffee module, and allows you to jump around the admin pretty easily. Like we have some overrides, some styles on that where we change like the background overlay to, you know, the kind of the theme color, and there's a lot of like little things like that we don't like. Our only dependencies are core, but if you have these modules and it sees these libraries, we do a libraries extend, and we load just like some like really nice
Mm.
CSS like enhancements
Mhm.
to kind of make it feel cohesive, you know?
Yeah.
And that goes into a lot of the TLC that we're putting in, and this goes into a lot of that 1,000 hours I was talking about, just like
Yeah.
little thing, you know. There's
Yeah.
so many of these things. Another thing I was thinking about is like exposed filters. You know, your exposed filters that you have on your views, you want those to look good right out of the box. You know, so we do work on that. Like I did this cool thing. Like one of my pet peeves with theming, and I'm gonna go off on a little tangent right here, is trying to get your exposed filters to line up horizontally, right? Because sometimes they have a label, sometimes they don't have a label, sometimes they have a description underneath, sometimes they don't have a description underneath. How do you do that? You know, so we solved that. We literally kind of like throw in an empty label and throw some CSS on it, so it's not, you know, an accessibility tree and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it pushes everything down like the other labels. So there's like some funky stuff like that
Yeah.
that we do, and it kind of works out.
Yeah. So, you know, part of Drupal CMS is project browser. And
Mhm.
so like I'm just kind of imagining someone purchasing a theme, they've got their Drupal CMS site set up, and then they go into project browser and are browsing, you know, various modules and stuff. Let's say they install the Gutenberg module on on a site with your theme. Like, what is that? Or where do you draw the line in terms of what you're going to support for like custom modules that people are installing, or not
Yeah.
custom, but Contrib modules?
Yeah, and this is a good question. Like obviously Gutenberg's its own beast. I've actually done like a little bit of
I
Gutenberg
needed to
work.
use an extreme example, right?
Yeah. And I mean Gutenberg won't look bad out of the box. It'll just you know, the components that come with it will look like the components that come with it. We're not doing extra on that. And a better example might be the Webform module.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Webform
Oh, yeah,
module
absolutely.
includes its own styling in certain places and doesn't in other places.
Mm.
An example of this, so like when you install the Webform module, it comes with a couple submodules. Like it comes with this Webform example submodule, and the Webform example submodule has some example accessibility webforms that show all these weird configurations of webforms, like, you know, that have like nested divs and field sets and all this type of stuff that you need to support. And let me tell you, like I go through this stuff and our stuff is awesome.
Mm.
But Webform adds its own CSS in there, right? So there's like an expand all, a collapse all that I think maybe affects the details or something like that. And they style it with a color, like it's this color blue and it looks great and something like Olivero. But like when you apply this black theme, obviously that won't
Yeah.
meet contrast criteria. And so the question at this point is, do I override that? You know, if I override it, I'm going to be making a decision where I'm overriding a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
So my answer to that is I did not override it, and the reason is because I don't think a lot of people are going to enable that advance or that that collapse and expand stuff. Like people don't normally do that, and if they see that, and if there's this, and they're using a dark theme, then there's nothing stopping them from doing that. It's actually fairly easy. But an example where I do fix a web form thing. So you you have your Drupal messages that pop up, and so
Yeah.
in Olivero and the Dripyard thing, these messages are dismissible. They have that little X at the top right, and you can close them, and then they're gone. Webform includes their own X. So obviously you don't want two X's there, and of course the Webform one looks kind of weird. So we do remove theirs. I just explained on it. So there's only one X. And, because that is something that we assume that, they probably will be running into that. And that's kind of weird. Like Webform, like as amazing as a module it is, like they insert some funky, very specific CSS in very specific places, and it would be a very tall order to get all of that and make it maintainable, because at some point Jacob's probably going to be changing stuff around or adding or removing stuff, and I'll never know.
So you said something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think what we would have out of the box is like a list of modules that we support, and kind of publish that. Like you'll be more than okay installing these modules, and then of course be available for consulting. Like if you have a specific module you need support for, well, we're available to help you build that out.
Yeah, that's another thing that we're hoping to do is like consulting, So like, let's say you buy a Dripyard theme, but you're having trouble integrating it into your paragraphs site architecture. Well, you can pay us money. We'll do that for you, and we'll do it quick. We're not going to be like, our hourly rate isn't necessarily going to be the cheapest, but because we know what we're doing, we're probably going to end up being cheaper.
So going back to kind of the customization aspect, right? It doesn't sound from our conversation to this point that people will be able to kind of sub-theme your modules, right? And it sounds like the customization is kind of done through the Drupal UI, maybe some light additions of a CSS file somewhere to override some small tweaks. Is that pretty accurate? Am I describing that correctly?
No.
Not at all.
Absolutely not. Have you even been listening, John?
No, please correct me.
So so there are some settings, of course, in the theme UI, but you can absolutely sub-theme our stuff. And in fact, we're going to be expecting people to do this. Like, our themes are going to get you like 95% of the way, but it is entirely likely you're going to need to create your own component, for your own specific use case, or you're not going to like, the border radius of like the picture into author card, and you can override that in a sub theme. So there's nothing stopping you from sub theme, and we're expecting people to do that, and in fact, like, we're encouraging that, because if you put all your changes in a sub theme, then you can accept that you can get updates.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that would be like step one of this whole process, is like purchase your theme and then create your own sub theme, because chances are pretty good you're going to have your own components.
Gosh, I love it. I love it when I'm wrong.
Okay, it doesn't happen very often.
Have you listened to this show? It happens.
No.
It's recorded for posterity. So
Mike only attends the show. He doesn't listen.
There you go. That's okay too. That's kind of my MO. All right. So yes, you can sub theme. Yes, you can use the sub theme to customize. That's all great. That's all good. So let's play the what if game here, right? Say I purchase a theme from Dripyard and I do not have developers or any development experience whatsoever to make changes to that. I run into an issue. Will people get a certain level of support? Do you have development partners you're going to work with to offer, hey, if you need development assistance, we have this partner? Or will you guys kind of step in and say, hey, we're gonna offer you kind of like a development plan of some sort?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So, like, first of all, even if you like, I want to state that even if you don't have development experience, like, if you download our theme, you go to the theme settings page. There's a little area, like a little details element in there. You can expand and you can install recipes. You check the boxes on what recipes you want to install. Right now, these recipes use Layout Builder because we don't have any dependencies outside of core. And we created a lot of custom block types and a lot of default content. And we set up your homepage for you. Of course, this homepage has our content. It's not going to have your content. And it'll get you kind of seeing what's possible out of the box. So that'll go a very long way. And Andy will talk about that in a second. But like beyond that, like our we're gonna what are we given? Like 2 free months of support, Andy? Is that sounding right?
Yep, that's what we talked about. So
Yeah.
when you purchase the theme, it comes with 2 months of support, and then with an optional option to have like a recurring support module added to that as well.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get like reoccurring revenue, and we're gonna have a Slack instance that we're gonna invite people for. It's gonna be very similar to Tugboat support. Like we actually like thought about this, like where you can jump into our Slack instance, ask a question, and we will answer your question. Usually pretty quickly. We can't walk you through the basics, like, creating content types. We can't walk you through the basics of creating themes, but we can point you in the right direction, maybe point you to different stuff. So if you're not a Drupal developer, like we can get you a little far, but you're going to have to learn to read some documentation, because we can't handhold you unless, of course, like we sell consulting services. And so if you need your theme hooked into something like Paragraphs, Drupal Canvas, or something like that, or some custom components, I mean, we can do retainer-based business, and stuff like that, and like
So
we'll be happy.
minimal hand holding, and then we will gladly accept a consulting gig to help you kind of get it over the finish line if need be.
Yeah, and I think Canvas is going to lower that barrier to entry for everyone too. I mean, that's our goal. Of Canvas has always been our target of like where our themes are being built to. So when you have the ability to just drop components on a page, all of our props are exposed through the schema. The form will be built on those. So the long-term goal, I think, for everybody is to have more of that less developer requirement.
We're going to invite Andy back because he makes less edits to the show. He uses the right terms.
Perfect.
Drupal Canvas.
Yeah, that's right.
There, yeah.
He'll need to beat me.
And like it was always named that too. Like, didn't he? I was like, Drupal Canvas. What's that? Oh yeah, right.
So listeners of the podcast will know that recipes are sort of near and dear to my heart. Recipes have been mentioned a couple of times already in this conversation. What can you tell us, Andy, about some of the ways that recipes have been utilized for these themes to sort of, make them more capable out of the box?
Yep, for sure. So one of the biggest problems I've had in Drupal for a long time is managing different projects for different clients and having different IA, different, even if it's the same field, the field name's different, right? And I think we've all been there. So what we've decided to do is heavily use recipes in our themes so that we can do things like block placement on install. We can do things like define block content and fields and have them directly mapped to our design components. And so we have a series of recipes that come with the theme that are basically inherited from the one above them. So, there's like some theme settings, and then there's a block config recipe, and then a layout builder config recipe, and then all those things stack. And the icing on the cake with it is like our demo content that, installs all of them. And so having recipes gives us the ability to, just kind of build these things out quickly, know that they're going to be consistent, and then give you something to build out of the box with IA that we're expecting and supporting. And we've done that, like, as we've mentioned already, like we're just using Drupal core. There's no module requirements. We don't even have our own like Dripyard module. Mike's idea initially was to have like a tarball that you drop in your theme and unpack it, and everything's there. And that's basically what we built. So you have core and a Dripyard theme. You go to the theme settings page, expand it. You've got all of our recipes. You choose the ones that are applicable to you, and a batch process kicks off, installs them, and then you go to the homepage and you have a beautiful theme. So recipes are definitely key to being able to do what we've done, especially with us waiting on Canvas to be ready and having to use Layout Builder to just basically get something out the door.
So I would imagine that you guys are based on what you just said, but you're pretty interested in like Core's recipe browser, like becoming a thing that is available to like end users, right?
I think we are. I think having full control of that stuff too was and not being dependent on that. Like, we support back versions of Drupal, so we don't want to like roll out a theme, but then it's waiting on something to be committed, right? So we have to kind of do some of the hard work ourselves just to make sure that we can achieve it.
I guess I say that in more of a like future forward sort of thing, where like you guys could not only be a theme shop, but have additional recipes that add kind of like like additional features to your themes, either at a
Sure.
cost or maybe free.
Absolutely.
Right. So like I feel like that we're drinking the like Drupal marketplace ecosystem sort of way of thinking, which we are going to talk about in a minute. But cool to hear that you're using recipes. You're interested in recipes. I'm assuming you believe in them because you're using them.
Sure.
I saw a comment in the Drupal Slack and the Talking Drupal channel the other day that was kind of asking like, hey, are recipes like dead before they even got started because of AI? And I think you guys are probably proof that that's not the case, which is reassuring.
Yeah, and I think recipes could provide the context for AI more than anything. So you have a certain recipe and you want to customize it. Well, have the AI look at the config and extend it from there.
Or the opposite, right? And I think Martin brought this point up, and I'll let him speak for himself. But the AI then goes out and says, "Hey, there's this recipe by Andy and Mike that's like they built it, they know what they're talking about. You should use this." Right, as
Sure.
opposed to like the AI just kind of like cobbling it together on its own. So
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage that AI has is that you can have the conversation with it, right? So it's almost like if AI could be, in a way, like the interface that you could use to customize the output of a recipe, to me, that would be like the ideal state. But hopefully we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
So, one thing that occurs to me is like I haven't themed anything in I don't know, 15 years or something. So all of my knowledge is ancient at this point, right? So if I were to create a theme nowadays, I would probably be looking for a framework or something. And I'm curious, like, what decisions you all made in terms of like architectural under the hood, back in in maybe 15 years ago, it would have been like, oh, let's use Bootstrap or something because you get so much out of the box and stuff like that. Are you all doing anything like that, or is everything pretty bespoke under the hood?
Yeah, that's another good question. So like part of the goal, like as we're developing these themes, is we want to like really like limit technical debt. Like I've ran into problems before where if like I'm using SAS, like the old version of the Florida Drupal campsite that I did, like the SAS wouldn't compile, and I had to, because it was Compass SAS, and then I had to update Ruby, but Ruby wasn't available, and all the like all these npm modules and everything. So it can be a lot to update. Like, will your CSS compile in 5 years? So we're writing vanilla CSS, and so modern CSS, for those that don't know, I think y'all have maybe had some like episodes with like people like Aubrey and stuff on here. Like modern CSS is awesome. It can do nesting. Browsers can understand that. It has things like container queries, so you can have components respond to the width of. You can respond. Components can adjust themselves based on the width of themselves, as opposed to just the width of, the screen. And it has a lot of other like super cool stuff. So we're all in on native CSS that doesn't require any type of a build process, and that's intentional. Because there's one or two things that we could really make use of. We are not using any type of things like Bootstrap or Tailwind or jQuery or React or anything like that. And part of the reason is because we want you to be able to like configure your theme and not have to worry about keeping Bootstrap updated or keeping React updated and or stuff like that, because that can be a bear, depending on your other dependencies. So our JavaScript's written in vanilla JavaScript. We write mostly to Drupal core standards. With some improvements. We are using like some carousel. We call it carousel JavaScript and our tabs JavaScript and stuff like that. But it's all vanilla, and what that means is it's going to work forever.
Yeah.
Like as long as the web is around, and this is going to work. It's going to work in your browser like 20 years from now.
Nice. It's so nice of you not to like overcomplicate it or make it like so like
because there's a lot of bloat,
kitschy, if you will, with like new stuff that like could just disappear someday. Like I know a lot of people will be like, well, you should be using a framework because of this, and the other thing. But like, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It can be hard, like I have a lot of experience doing USWDS work, that I used to do as some former employers. And
that's the United States web design system.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. And one of the things that it was drastically, in my opinion, overcomplicated. And to understand what I was doing or how to do stuff the USWS way, I not only have to understand CSS, I have to then dive into the various mixins that it has. Like I had a mixin for Flexbox, and it's like, why do I need a mixin for Flexbox? Now in addition to doing Flexbox, I now also need to have space in my brain to know how this mixin works, and it's not just one level. You would dive 5 different levels, and I've seen so many front end developers that like to overcomplicate stuff in similar ways, and they overcomplicate stuff like because they like to abstract. Andy and I have all these discussions about abstract, and he's probably laughing, but like because he likes to abstract stuff too, and I'm like, no, man, let's not abstract till we're doing it 2 or 3 times, and it's a fine line, but I believe in like less technical debt, keeping stuff working, not having to worry about stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, because you're not using like a CSS framework. You're building like pure CSS, if you will. Are you using mixins and other tools to develop that code like for yourself, like as part of your development process? Or you just sitting there writing CSS?
I'm sitting there writing CSS, and the reason is because if we want, I want our code to be understandable. Like I could use Sass to write the CSS, but then what would happen is we would have a customer wanting to override this stuff, and they'd be like, "What is going on here? What has generated this?" It would not make sense. Right. We have a tagline on our website, and I know this is like turning into a freaking ad by now, but it says like beautiful themes inside and out. But like I believe that like when people dive into the code, I want them to understand what's going on. We have craploads of comments. We have markdown files, that explain architectural decisions and variables and stuff.
That just feels really nice. I like, again, like very nice, like, because the biggest like problem, right? When you get a theme is that like it's not well commented, it's compiled, it's, you can't really get into it and make changes easily to it. Andy, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, like, as a backend developer, you'd install a theme in hopes that you'd be able to just like use it easily and like it would make your life better. And I will honestly say, like, I am in the same boat. I'm not much of a front end developer, and used to try to do the same things with my own personal site. And most recently, kind of just went back to like Olivero because it had a lot of the like easier features to kind of set colors in the latest versions and stuff like that. So like I can definitely understand like where you're coming from, and I think a lot of people are coming from that, that kind of mindset where like they want to be able to easily kind of just do some really basic customizations with a theme and not have to worry about like digging into code and stuff like that. So we've obviously covered quite a bit of land here. You guys are focusing on Drupal themes. You're focusing maybe a little bit on site templates once they become more widely accepted. You're doing consulting where it makes sense, predominantly revolving around theming and integrations. I'm wondering, like, for your themes and also your consulting, I mean, and there could be two different answers here. Like, what's the target audience? Like, what size company or what types of projects are you guys kind of focusing in on in the early stages here?
Mike, I'm going to take this one to begin. So when Mike first reached out to me, I guess going on about a year ago, he knew my shortcomings in theming, and he knew that I always ask him, "Hey, Mike, I'm about to do this full site build," which is something I don't, I do maybe 2 a year. Like, what theme should I use? What base theme should I start with? His answer was, "I don't know." And so, when he came to me with this idea of Dripyard, he basically said, "You are the target market." And so it worked out in that, we're building something that I can use easily by myself if I needed to for personal sites or even client sites. So that's like people that would buy our theme. I think, that's basically the first target audience. I think we will also expand that into like government agencies and companies that want to spin up a lot of sites and they want a consistent design system that works, across different sectors of their brand. And, they don't have to worry about accessibility and that kind of stuff. So I think, that's an opportunity for us as well.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Andy, that makes me like think of all, I've been a part of a bunch of projects over the years, and there's so many of those projects where maybe it's a local library or a smaller university or something like that, and you've got this person that is like one employee that just wears a ton of hats at that organization or something, and they're really sharp and they can do a lot. And asking them to also make a beautiful and accessible theme is that's a big ask, right? And so having them be able to drop in a beautiful, accessible, performant theme and then be able to get in there and like nerd out and be like, oh, okay, I understand how this works. I can read the comments. I can see like how to customize this and that sort of a thing. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
that's
incredible.
it, man.
Yeah.
So, Mike,
And I was going to expand just a little bit, like in the future too, like after Drupal Canvas comes out and settles down, I think we can start marketing toward like less technical folks. But like that's going to be dependent on Canvas.
I look forward to that day.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
Anyway,
like
go ahead.
if you're non-technical, you could still drop this in and be really happy, like based on the way you've described it. So
Yeah. But you're still stuck with the layout builder interface, and like all of us know, like using layout builder without like the suite of modules that like, layout builder modal and all that type of stuff.
I see.
Like it is a subpar experience, which is kind of the point of Canvas. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm dating myself here. I've never actually used Layout Builder, so that's how long ago my Drupal days were. So.
I have something that'll date. I don't know, John and Andy, if y'all know, and Steven, like, so in Drupal 7, you had the drush fu command for feature update, and drush fu all command for feature update all.
Mm-hmm.
That was James.
Yes, it was.
I tried to steer clear of the features module.
Oh,
if you're a long time listener,
it
Nick
was
and
like
I have had some debates on the features module, but we won't get into that here.
it was like recipes alpha.
That's
recipes
right.
is what
It's the OG recipe.
Yeah, recipes is what features should have been, basically. So from what I understand, again, not a Drupal engineer anymore these days, but yeah, Mike, there is sort of like one perhaps elephant in the room for some folks, which at the beginning you mentioned, this strong value that you have for open source, the open web, and you even mentioned like free open source software. And so selling themes, like how do these two things jive? Because Drupal historically has had a problem with this. And you look at other open source communities like WordPress and other things, they haven't had a problem with it. So this may be a podcast all in and of itself, but like, what is the what's the TLDR, Mike and Andy version of that sort of elephant in the room question?
Yeah, and it is like people have done Drupal themes. People have tried Drupal themes for a long time. I remember back when I used to do like the Lullaby podcast, we had people on talking about the Drupal marketplace back then, and there was a lot of pushback. I think the difference is now that people are realizing that Drupal probably could have taken a slightly different turn back when it did, and maybe embraced it a little bit more. Like one of the reasons that WordPress and other systems are doing so well is because they have that lower cost of development, and one of the reasons they have that lower cost of development is because people can get up and running on the front end a lot quicker, and they can do that through the equivalent of the marketplace. People are realizing that now. Our themes have a split license model, like per the GPL. There are certain parts of our theme that have to be GPL. And that includes stuff that like runs in the same memory space as Drupal, stuff that's dependent on Drupal. That includes Twig, PHP, and all that stuff. But there are certain things that do not have to be GPL, and that includes the styles, some of the JavaScript and stuff like that. So we're doing what's called a split licensing model, and and you can see this in the WordPress ecosystem too. So part of our themes are GPL because of necessity, part are not. And would I like to make everything GPL? Yes, but I also want to support myself and my family. I don't know if y'all read my blog post. I literally took out a equity line of credit against my house that now I had to dig myself out of this hole to fund this company. To help fund myself as we do this, and that's scary and good. But like the only way to do that is by doing
like the burn the ships. Sort of thing.
Yeah. This is it. And I told like Andy, I'm like, I'm making this happen. Like, it's gonna happen. And so like commercial licenses are necessary. I believe in that fine line. And I also believe that by selling these themes, we will push Drupal as a project forward. Like by lowering Drupal's cost of development is going to, raise that tide that raise all ships. And I want to be part of it,
I think like so it's not very different than an agency selling Drupal expertise, right? Like the way I look at this is like, yes, I'm buying a theme from Mike and Andy, but I'm also buying their expertise in the themes. That theme is going to be as accessible as it possibly can. It's going to be high quality. It's going to be built towards, with Drupal core in mind, that it's going to work really well. And if it doesn't work as I anticipate, I can reach out to them and they'll go, oh yeah, you know what? You just found a bug and we'll fix that. And, no problem. Right.
Totally.
So, I mean, I kind of see I kind of see where you're coming from there. I think that, you know, you can still, I don't know. I think you can be in both camps, right? You can say, hey, Drupal is a great open source system. It is a great free piece of software that people should use. But the reason that you're buying our theme is because it's of high quality and checks a lot of boxes and gets you a lot further faster. If you were to hire somebody to build something similar, it would cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars, right? And you know, there's years of expertise there that I think are pretty important. I do
And a
have
significant amount of contribution to back to Drupal just to develop our themes,
Yeah,
like
true.
the
right.
issues
Yeah,
that
you
Mike's
talked
mentioned
about,
earlier.
you know, the experience Canvas issue that you had
Good catch.
you had talked about earlier. And you know, and I know that you guys are in the issue queue kind of putting in issues, talking about these things. So I mean that's there's something valuable, definitely valuable about that.
Yeah, and both Andy and I have a history of contributing back to Drupal projects. You know, like I've been involved, like obviously on the on the front end of Drupal, but Andy's done a whole bunch of contribution back into Drupal, including like especially a lot in the commerce ecosystem, which is kind of his bread and butter.
But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And the contribution speaks for itself. I mean,
Yeah.
you can look you guys up. Obviously, you're doing quite a bit of contribution on the side. So we have about 8 minutes left here in the show. I have two more questions. And I think James has one. So we're gonna try to lightning round through this here. We talked about licensing a bit, right?
Mhm.
I'm wondering like how you said there are you're using GPL for some of it. There's other licensing. Like, are you requiring people to get a license for your themes? How's that working?
Yeah, so I mean, like as we say the theme, you know, at that point that gives you the license. You know, we're not having any type of license server. You know, so if Dripyard, you know, if Andy and I are both on an airplane that goes down, you know, over the Himalayas, and we have to, you know, eat each other for food and snuggle for warmth and stuff, like your themes will continue to function.
Snuggle for warmth first, then eat each other. Just order of operations.
Thank you. Um,
Sleep with one eye open though.
Right.
So
um,
so I
go
guess
ahead.
so that all makes sense to me. But I want to go back to something you said early on in the show where like the expectation from your end is that somebody will buy the theme and use it on a single site, right?
Yeah.
So like how are you, is that the honor system or are you like, how are you guys going to manage that?
Yeah, it's basically going to be on our system. You know, we are going to have like some watermarking that goes into the theme, but like, you know, we could technically probably bring legal action, but against, you know, the cost of a theme, $500, like in reality, that's probably, and especially like, you know, if something's overseas, that might not be financially worth it. It might be.
Mhm.
So we're like really relying on goodwill from the community,
Got
just
it.
because, you know, if you're sitting here, you're making significant amount of money on Drupal, you're using our products, you know, like we contribute back. You know, we're not external from this community coming in. You know, so like
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
we
mean,
hope.
even if we did have licensing in the theme, you know, if you're wanting to abuse it, you're going to find a way to strip that out anyways. So like,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
and it
And
just becomes more
yeah.
problems, you know.
I imagine for somebody kind of as Andy said earlier, right? Somebody in Andy's situation where they you know, they're just looking for it as like a starting point, right? They're probably going to bake in that cost of the theme and pass it along to their client anyway, right? Like, hey, this is saving you like 10 grand, pay the $500 and like pass it on to these guys and I'm going to use their theme as a starting point, right?
Absolutely.
And then my final question, and you touched on this a little bit, Mike. Drupal Marketplace sounds like you guys are big fans, or will be big fans once it's actualized, right?
Mhm.
Um, will you offer site templates as well as themes on there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think the majority of the work going into a site template is going to be a theme.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a head start on this because we're gonna have these great themes. So at that point, all we got to do is just like tell Andy to
Bundle them
build.
with some recipes, Andy, and send
That's
them
right.
out. I got you.
Yeah, yeah. Andy's a recipe master now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know who I'm coming to in my next set of recipe questions.
Hmm.
So the last part of this question for me is, Drupal launches a marketplace. I'm assuming Dripyard is there as you know, a DCP as a vendor, right? You guys going to offer some sort of free set of templates, or is it going to be like, nope, we're just doing the paid stuff for now?
That's a good question. Like right now, we don't have plans to, you know, and like as I mentioned earlier, like a good chunk of our, you know, code is going to be the shared library of of you know, of components, and you know, we can't GPL that, you know, because this is going to be like how we make our livelihoods.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, I would like to just to potentially get, you know, leads or something like that. Like as it stands right now, we're like we're going to be looking for ways to market ourselves. That might be a way if we can figure out a way to do that, you know.
Yeah, and with single directory components, I mean, it is possible that we could only release like a subset of them for free, you know, with
Yeah.
our theme, and then later, you know, if you want more functionality, you buy the theme to get the rest of it.
Might be something to experiment with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm listening to this and I'm a designer or a themer, or maybe I work for an agency or something, and I've been really inspired by the focus on accessibility, the focus on performance, the focus on clean code, and building out beautiful themes like this. And are you all looking for like collaborators in that way, like where someone could say like, well, I've got a beautiful theme that's also accessible, clean code, you know, beautiful, all these things, and like, can you all resell it, sort of a thing? Is that the long-term vision at all for you?
That's not something that we're planning on, you know. But that being said, like if you're out there and you're thinking this, like reach out and talk to us. Like maybe we can find a way to work together.
Yeah.
You know, because people like that, they're amazing, you know. But like as it stands, like I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's funny because I would like, I want to one up or plus one that question, because like I feel like it's not so much somebody who already has a theme. Like I can see a lot of designers saying like, hey, I want to build this theme. I don't really know how to do it. Can we
Yeah.
collab? And like,
Absolutely.
I'll do the design, you guys develop it, and then we like, you know, profit
Yeah,
share.
I would be more interested in designers
Mhm.
than other you know than developers. Not to say I'm not interested, because like, you know, the designer that we found, she's amazing, but like we talked to several other designers and worked with some other designers and spent money on other designers, and they didn't work out for various reasons. Great designers, you know.
It's hard to find
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, it's
And
hard to
if
find.
somebody's
Maybe it's
coming,
us. You know, I
no,
don't
but I mean,
know.
I think if somebody's coming to you with a design that they need developed, like seems like a pretty good start to a relationship, if I had to
Yeah.
guess. Well, Mike and Andy, wishing you the best of luck. I'm sure you will come back and tell us more about Dripyard as you guys kind of get out the door and get running down or up the hill, depending on how you want to look at it. But thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
Thanks,
John,
John.
for having us on, and I look forward to listening to my own voice on the podcast, which is always weird.
Yeah, and I'm packing up my tent. I'm heading down to Gainesville, so I'll be outside your door, but in 20 days, you know. So
That's right. First
yeah.
in line.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe you can
Every
help Mike fix his sink while you're doing
everybody should sign up for the webinar. If you go to dripyard.com and click on the themes, there's a big call to action at the top that says sign up for the webinar. And like we'll be demoing the themes. We'll be talking technical challenges. You're going to learn something. I guarantee you're going to learn something, even if you have no intention on buying the theme.
There you go.
And
I like
yeah,
that.
it'll be awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
The Alexa app instead.
Do you have questions or feedback? Reach out to Talking Drupal on the socials with the handle Talking Drupal or by email with show@talkingdrupal.com. You can connect with our hosts and other listeners on Drupal Slack in the Talking Drupal channel. Just like Badcamp did today, you can promote your Drupal Camp community event on Talking Drupal. Learn more at talkingdrupal.com/tdpromo. Get the Talking Drupal newsletter to learn more about our guest hosts, show news, upcoming shows, and much more. Sign up for the newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter. And thank you, patrons, for the support of Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choosing the Become a Patron button in the sidebar. All right, Mike, if folks wanted to get a hold of you, how could they go about doing that?
Well, on LinkedIn, I am known as Mike Herchel's disembodied head. And you can also find me on Dripyard.com, and I'm M. Herchel on Drupal.org.
There you go. Andy, what about you?
I'm Andy G 5000 and Dripyard.com.
I wonder what the first 499,000 were like.
Bunch of chumps.
Yeah, there you go. James, what about you?
I'm sorry, I'm really curious if you search disembodied head on LinkedIn, if Mike Herchel is the top result.
I am going to find out right now.
But while you're there, if you search James Sansbury, you can find me on LinkedIn.
That feels like a bad Google search.
Yeah.
Disembodied head.
Yeah.
I'm John Picozzi, and you can find me on all the major social networks at John Picozzi, as well as on Drupal.org. You can find me personally at Picozzi.com, or professionally, you can find out more about EPAM at EPAM.com. And as we say at the end of every show, or almost every show, if you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a great day.